All right, let's get into Friday feedback for this week. You can always email feedback, thoughts, questions, ideas, criticisms, trolling to info@davidpakman.com, but we'll also feature YouTube comments or Spotify comments, Twitter replies, Reddit posts, and all of it. All right, let's start with Enrique GP, who says, my family genuinely believes that Trump's big tariff strategy and the brief economic pain it inevitably brings will be worth it. How many people be convinced of this tariffs will bring back jobs strategy? And then goes on to explain the details of what his family believes. You know, my thought on approaching this is, if tariffs brought back jobs, we would all have been rolling in cash from the last time that Trump tried this on a more limited scale. What happened last time? We did not get the jobs as a result of tariffs. We saw Trump have to bail out farmers as a result of tariffs. We didn't get a golden age of whatever in the United States. We didn't get manufacturing back. We didn't get any of it. So this really isn't policy. It's let's do the thing that didn't work last time to every country instead of only to some countries. And to a degree, it's become a loyalty test. And, you know, what Enriquez is talking about here is that there are people in his family that are trying to pass the loyalty test, which is that even though they can't defend any of what Trump is doing economically, even though I'm sure they were screaming for Biden's head when eggs hit $5 under Biden, now they're down to suffer voluntarily because they're showing they're passing the loyalty test and whatnot. So I don't even know that I encourage you to engage with these people directly, but if you decide that that's what you want to do, try to ask them for when such a policy brought economic prosperity. And if they go all the way back, like Trump does, to 1870, where he goes, we had no federal income tax, but we had tariffs and we were doing great. Consider that the economy then bore no resemblance to the economy today. The government wasn't doing almost any of the things the government does today. Inequality was outrageous and we had no services. So my real recommendation is don't even get involved in the conversation. All right. Hamburger, 1975, wrote on YouTube, the time to debate MAGA is over. It's a complete waste of time. Focus on winning elections. You know, I have two thoughts on this. It is obviously true, as I said to our last commenter, trying to reason with a lot of these MAGA people is like trying to explain gravity to someone who thinks it's a liberal hoax. It's a worthless experiment to try to convince them. But here's the deal. Sometimes when we do debates on the show, I'm not necessarily arguing with people to win them over. I'm exposing the nonsense way that they think to everybody else who's watching. And of course, we have to win elections. But information is what gets people off the couch and into the voting booth. So from a show perspective, I'm trying to do both. Now, I've spoken about this before as far as like a retail versus a wholesale strategy. And as I've said, if you're arguing with your MAGA uncle at Thanksgiving, that's the retail strategy. You're doing one-to-one. Is that a way to win elections? No, it's not. Is it a way to engage with people and maybe change one person's mind? Yes. And if you want to do that, if you can tolerate the depravity and frustration of trying to convince people one by one like that, then do it. I think what I'm trying to do on the show, and when I do a Tic Tac Live and a bunch of Trump supporters call in or whatever, what I'm trying to do is show others the lapses in reasoning from the MAGA people. It's not necessarily for that one person. So something to keep in mind. We've got to win elections and we've got to convince people. We've got to do all of it. Okay. Julia Tano says, the David Pakman Show is my new favorite. I am going to check out the Echo Machine, the Eco Machine, right? It's the Echo Machine, and get on the newsletter. Welcome, Julia. Great to have you here. The newsletter is where we go deeper than we go on the show with a lot of these issues. The book is where we go even deeper than we go in the newsletter. sort of on how this whole mess got built. And just big picture, I am thrilled by a couple things. Number one, we're seeing the most growth we've ever seen on the show, which, by the way, I'm going to address in a moment because there's some haters who are coming out of the woodwork once again to say, David, you're circling the drain. The show will be gone soon. I'll get back to that in a moment. I'm flattered by the growth we're seeing, but also just anecdotally, because Julia wrote in, we are starting to see more women get involved with the show. And the reason this is relevant is I don't know how many of you are necessarily up on the demographics of online news shows. Shows like this one, whether they have a male host or a female host, it actually doesn't matter. Shows like this one, online progressive news type shows, we have audiences that skew significantly male. And one of the amazing things we've seen is that on all platforms, the balance has shifted a couple points back in the direction of female, which I think is great just to have more gender diversity in the audience. And also on TikTok, it's the closest to 50-50 in terms of gender split on any platform. So the takeaway is we want to reach as many types of people as possible. And we're seeing some really, really optimistic numbers there as far as that is concerned. Okay, Avery wrote in. Avery says, hey, David, I'm only 12 and I love your show, but I have one question. How will the nation come together to see the threat they are up against if, like you said, they are people who relentlessly support Trump? Our nation has been divided into two political groups who see differently on almost everything. How would you go about solving that problem? Well, first of all, Avery, I love that you're 12 and you're asking questions and following what's going on in the world around you. So you're already more thoughtful than like half of Congress. That's phenomenal. Now, here's my answer to the question. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do need a shared basis for reality. If half the country thinks facts are optional, it's impossible to progress unless we completely exclude them from the political system. And the way we solve that, I've talked about that in the book. This is a big topic in the Echo Machine. I guess I don't have to hold the book up. I can just point back here and down here. We do need education, communication, and yes, voting like hell, and some empathy even when it's exhausting. But at some core level, if we're still arguing not over what the facts are, but what are facts, we are in real trouble. And even 12-year-old Avery is figuring out that it is very difficult to productively move forward on that basis. All right, let's go to something a little different. Here's an attack. Daryl says, you insignificant little twerp, if you never had Trump to discredit, you would be unemployed. Now go and crawl under a very small rock because we know you will fit. I love this. I love this because the argument here is if it weren't for this one thing, you'd be finished. People said the same thing when Biden won. No more Trump, you're done. In fact, we can go back further. When Obama won, people said, you don't have George W. Bush to attack anymore. Your show's going to end. And we grew more under Obama than during any previous period. When Trump defeated Hillary after when Obama's term ended, people said, now that you don't have a friendly administration on your side, the whole country's going to change. Under Trump, no one's going to want your left-wing drivel. And during Trump's first term, we grew more than at any previous time in the show's history. Then when Trump lost to Biden, people said, you don't have Trump anymore. You're done. The show is done. What are you going to do? And the show grew more during Biden's 4 years than under any previous president. And then now, once again, with Donald Trump in power, as authoritarian as ever, we have seen the fastest growth of the show in history during Q1 of 2025. And you know what the theme is? The bigger the show gets, the more able to grow it is, number one. And number two, we adjust. The show is never about one idea or one person. It's about what's broken and who's benefiting and why it keeps happening. Trump makes it easier to explain to a degree. But the folks saying, with this new president, you guys are done. Fortunately, they've been wrong every time so far. All right, Anxious Scholar wrote on Reddit, why do you think Trump seems way more unhinged this time around? I think it has to do with the staged assassination attempt and Elon rigging the election by throwing out legitimate votes. I think that after he committed and got away with such public and ludicrous acts of treason, he feels more privileged and untouchable, truly unhinged behavior at every moment. Listen, I don't know about Elon rigging the election by throwing out legitimate votes. That's not something I'm confidently able to weigh in on right now. But what I can tell you is the reason Trump seems more unhinged is because he is. Last time, he flirted with authoritarianism. This time, he feels completely untouchable, and he has gone full-blown authoritarian. He dodged impeachment, dodged criminal charges, dodged consequences for 4 years as president, 4 years as not being president while Biden was president, and now he's back with a vengeance. It's not a mystery. It's unchecked power with access to social media. He has no more races to run. He legitimately has reason to say to himself, they can't do anything to me because they haven't so far. And so the reason Trump seems more unhinged is he is, and he also has far more unhinged people around him who are not restraining him in any way. Okay, Irene Phillips wrote on YouTube, Charlie Kirk is like that guy who graduated 3 years ago, but hangs out in the high school parking lot to look cool to younger kids. Yeah, that's true. And it's not just Charlie Kirk. There's this whole genre of mostly guys who figured out that if you yell about masculinity and pretend to care about free speech and throw in some, light religious apologetics, you can build a brand off of insecurity and moral panic. And when you see Charlie Kirk do these events at colleges, it's kind of like high school debate club energy. And I don't want to diminish high school debate club. It's high school debate club energy, but without actually sticking to logical statements, and instead having a bunch of funding from rich people come in to help you set up the entire thing. It does not project strength, that's for sure. And Irene is correctly identifying that. Chuck commented on YouTube, people are so freaking dumb. The economy was bad, so Biden had to go. But now the economy is bad, and that's actually good. It's literal insanity. Well, this is the playbook right now. When the economy was bad under Biden, it was because Biden was doing the wrong things. And of course, they couldn't actually find any metrics to say the economy was bad. Now that the economy is bad under Trump, and to be clear, most of the metrics are still okay. It's the forward-looking stuff that's a concern, but we are told there's going to be pain, and now we're told it's good. The economic pain we are now going to suffer is because it's a control. We're setting fire to the economy, but this time it's a controlled burn, is what we are told to believe. I know not many people in my audience believe it, but the double standard and the hypocrisy is stunning. Now, I'll be honest. I think Trump recognizes it because he's also now trying to figure out how to off-ramp this tariff fiasco before it really does start to torpedo the economy. But a very good point, significant double standard. Bad economy under Biden, which we can't identify, is bad. Bad economy under Trump, we're all doing our part. We're all patriotic. It's all going to be great. We've got a great bonus show for you today. Sign up at joinpakman.com. We'll see you then, and I'll be back on Monday. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.